Ever feel like you're constantly running, like barely keeping your head above water with all the emails and meetings and this like never-ending to-do list?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, Cal Newport said it best, right? The way we are working no longer works.
Totally.
Like we're always doing stuff, but are we really getting the important things done?
I think that's a question we all struggle with. It's so easy to get caught up in the busyness and think that just because we're doing a lot, we're being productive.
Right. Like checking things off that list just for the sake of it.
But real productivity is about making meaningful progress, not just going through the motions.
And that's where I think this idea of slow productivity comes in, which, again, Cal Newport talks a lot about.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not about doing less work, but about working smarter.
It's about being more intentional with your time and energy, focusing on what truly matters, and producing high-quality work instead of just churning out a high quantity of output.
So it's more like get more done, but the right things.
Yeah, exactly. Without feeling completely burned out at the end of the day.
Yeah, no burnout, just results. And how do we actually make that happen?
Well, Newport breaks down slow productivity into 3 core principles, and those are do fewer things, obsess over quality, and work at a natural pace.
I love that.
And the great thing is, these aren't just some vague feel-good concepts.
No, not at all.
They're practical principles grounded in real-world examples and historical analysis.
Right. So it's like, how have people worked effectively throughout history?
Exactly. What can we learn from them?
And that's actually what we're going to do in this deep dive today, right? Like, how do we actually take these principles and turn them into concrete actions?
Yeah, let's get practical.
What can you, the listener, do today to feel less overwhelmed and more in control of your work?
Let's equip you with some tangible strategies.
Because I know, at least for me, that feeling of being overwhelmed is so real. So let's tackle the first principle head on. Do fewer things.
Right, let's jump in. Now, this might seem a little counterintuitive, especially in our culture, where busyness is almost seen as a badge of honor.
Yeah, who isn't busy these days, right?
But the key here isn't to do less overall, but to focus on fewer things at once.
Fewer things at once. Got it.
Think about it this way. Have you ever noticed how when you switch between tasks constantly,
Yeah.
you never really feel fully engaged with any of them?
Oh, 100%.
It's like part of your brain is still stuck on the previous task, right?
Yeah.
And Newport calls this attention residue.
Okay, attention residue.
Yeah, it's this mental clutter that lingers from the previous task and prevents you from giving your full attention to the new one.
Oh, that makes so much sense. It's like trying to run a bunch of apps on your phone at the same time. Everything just gets slow and laggy.
Exactly. And it's not just about the major projects either.
Yeah.
It's all those smaller commitments we take on throughout the day, the emails, the impromptu meetings, those little tasks that we think will only take a minute.
Right, the little things add up.
All of those add up and create what Newport calls the overhead tax of taking on too much.
The overhead tax. I like that.
Each commitment, no matter how small, comes with its own set of administrative tasks and follow-ups.
Yeah, you've got to reply to that email, schedule that follow-up meeting, and suddenly your day is gone.
And as your list of commitments grows, this overhead tax just keeps piling up, leaving you with less and less time and energy for your most important work.
Okay, so we know we need to do fewer things, but how do we actually do that?
Well, let's get to the practical tactics. Newport suggests creating a busy buffer.
Okay, love it. Busy buffer. Tell me more.
So this is about creating a protective layer around your most important work time, safeguarding it from those constant interruptions.
So fewer distractions, more focus.
Exactly. And one really effective way to do this is by implementing what we call office hours.
Oh, okay. Office hours, yeah.
I know it sounds simple, but it can be incredibly powerful.
So explain how that works in practice.
So you block off a specific time each day, maybe an hour or two, specifically for communication. That's when you're available to answer emails, respond to messages, or have those quick calls.
So you're basically batching all of those little tasks into one dedicated time block.
Exactly. Instead of letting them fragment your attention throughout the day.
Makes sense.
And what's great about this is it sets clear expectations for everyone you work with. They know when you're available and when you're not.
It also forces people to be more thoughtful about their requests.
Exactly. If someone knows they only have a limited window to connect with you, they're more likely to be prepared and concise with their questions. And like we saw in that YouTube video, what might have taken half an hour of back and forth emails can often be resolved in a few minutes of focused discussion.
So office hours, check. What's another tactic for building that busy buffer?
Another one that I really like is the reverse task list.
Oh, this is interesting.
So instead of keeping your to-do list private, you make it public.
Public, okay.
Yeah, you create a shared space, maybe using a tool like Trello, where anyone who needs something from you has to add their request directly to the list.
Oh, I see. So no more, hey, can you quickly?
Exactly. And what this does is a few things. First, it creates transparency. Everyone can see what you're working on and how much is already on your plate.
Right, so no more surprises.
And it discourages people from just casually adding more to your workload. They see that you're already busy, and they're more likely to think twice before making a request.
And it also forces them to be more specific about what they need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they have to actually articulate their request in writing.
And it probably cuts down on all those, hey, what's the status on this? Emails, too.
Precisely. Everyone can see the status of everything right there on the list.
That is pretty smart. And I think another key part of doing fewer things is being intentional about reducing those bigger commitments that we sign up for.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about managing those daily tasks. It's about looking at the larger picture of what we're committing to.
And Newport uses the example of Andrew Wiles, who solved Fermat's last theorem, right?
Yes. What's so fascinating about Wiles' approach is how systematic he was about minimizing distractions.
So, like, what did he do?
He created specific rules for himself, like avoiding conferences, which
Yeah.
can be huge time sinks.
Oh, for sure.
He established consistent habits, like working primarily from home. And he even had these little tactics to minimize interruptions.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
He was so laser focused on his goal that he intentionally structured his entire life around it.
So his big goal was to solve this theorem.
Right.
And he structured his whole life around that one goal.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so what about us? Like, as listeners, what are some concrete things we can do to reduce those bigger commitments?
I think the first step is awareness. Just being mindful of what you're saying yes to and why.
So, more intentional about your commitments.
Exactly. Ask yourself, is this truly aligned with my goals? Is it worth the time and energy it will require?
So, really getting clear on your priorities.
Yes. And then being willing to say no to things that aren't.
Say no more often.
It's a challenge, for sure, but it's essential for protecting your time and energy.
Yeah, no is a powerful word. And this leads to another tactic that Newport suggests, right? Working on, at most, one major project per day.
Oh, this is a good one. Now, this doesn't mean you only do one thing all day.
Right, right.
But it means choosing one major focus for your deepest work, your most cognitively demanding tasks.
Okay, so like, identify that one big rock for the day.
Exactly. Prioritize it and give it your full attention during those peak focus hours.
I like that.
And what this does is create a sense of what Newport calls calibrated steadiness.
Calibrated steadiness. Interesting.
You're making consistent progress on your most important work without feeling scattered and overwhelmed by trying to do everything at once.
So you're not constantly switching gears.
Exactly. And it's not just about getting more done. It's about reducing that anxiety that comes from feeling like you're juggling too many things at once.
So one major project per day. Check. But what about all those recurring tasks that can really bog you down?
Oh yes, the administrative stuff. So for those, Newport suggests implementing what he calls autopilot schedules.
Ooh, autopilot. Tell me more.
So these are recurring tasks that we all have to do, like processing invoices, reviewing reports, responding to certain types of email.
Right, like the routine stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And instead of trying to remember to do them or fit them in whenever you have a free moment, you assign specific times and days for each task.
Okay, so like block it out on the calendar.
Exactly. So maybe you always process invoices on Tuesday mornings,
All right.
or you review your team's reports every Wednesday afternoon.
Make it a routine.
Exactly. By making these tasks habitual and time-bound, you free up mental energy that would otherwise be spent trying to remember and schedule them.
That's so true.
And another tip is to link these schedules with specific rituals or locations to make them even more automatic.
Oh, okay. Like how?
So maybe you always review those performance reports at your desk with your first cup of coffee on Wednesday mornings.
It becomes a habit, almost a ritual.
Exactly. The more you can anchor these tasks to specific cues, the less mental effort it takes to get them done.
Love it. Okay, now speaking of communication, I think another important step is to be more intentional about when we choose real-time conversations over asynchronous ones.
Absolutely. We have all these great tools for asynchronous communication like email and chat, but sometimes they can actually make things more complicated.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in these long email threads with multiple people. when a quick phone call or even a brief in-person chat could have resolved the issue much faster.
Oh, so true.
So be mindful of that. If something requires clarification or needs a quick resolution, don't be afraid to pick up the phone or walk over to someone's desk.
It's about choosing the right tool for the job.
Exactly. And sometimes that tool is a simple conversation.
Okay, so we've talked about office hours, reverse task lists, saying no more, one major project per day, autopilot schedules, real-time conversations. What else can we do to do fewer things?
Well, we can't talk about doing fewer things without talking about the art of saying no.
Yeah, that can be tough,
It definitely is.
especially when you're used to saying yes to everything.
Right. It's like we're conditioned to be helpful and accommodating, but saying yes to everything ultimately means saying no to your own priorities.
Right, or spreading yourself too thin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you end up doing a mediocre job at everything instead of a great job at a few things.
So how do we get better at saying no?
Well, Newport suggests having hard evidence to back up your no.
Okay, hard evidence, what does that mean?
So instead of just saying, no, I'm too busy, which can feel arbitrary and maybe even a little rude.
Yeah, I'm just saying no because I don't feel like it.
Right, exactly. You can point to something concrete like your full revised task list.
Oh, right, because everyone can see it.
Exactly. Or you can say, I'm currently focused on this one major project, which is a top priority.
So it's not personal.
Exactly. It's not that you don't want to help, but you have limited capacity.
Makes sense.
And when you do take on new projects, Newport suggests evaluating them not just by their difficulty, but by their task footprint.
Okay, task footprint, what's that?
So it's not just about how complex the core work of the project is, but also how many ongoing requests, follow-ups, and little tasks it's going to generate down the line.
I see, so like some projects might seem simple on the surface, but actually end up being really demanding in terms of all the back and forth.
Exactly. A project might require approvals from multiple stakeholders or involve constant coordination with different teams, which can really eat into your time and mental energy.
So choose projects wisely.
Exactly. Be mindful of the task footprint.
Now, another thing that can help us do fewer things is delegation.
Oh, absolutely. Delegation is one of the most powerful tools we have for freeing up our time and energy for our most important work.
And Newport talks about Benjamin Franklin as an example, right?
Yes. Franklin was incredibly productive, and one of the keys to his success was his willingness to delegate.
So what did he delegate?
Well, he hired David Hall to manage the day-to-day operations of his printing business.
Okay, so the routine stuff.
Exactly. He recognized that he didn't need to do everything himself and that his time was better spent on higher-level tasks.
Right, like focusing on the bigger picture.
And what's interesting is that Franklin actually gave up some potential future profits by doing this.
Really? Why?
He could have kept all the profits for himself if he had managed everything on his own, but he was willing to trade some of that financial gain for something even more valuable, his time and energy.
Freedom to focus.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important lesson for all of us.
Totally. And for our listeners who are interested in learning more about delegation, the YouTube video mentioned Athena as a potential resource.
Oh, that's right.
So check that out if you're ready to start delegating more effectively. Now, one last tactic that Newport suggests for doing fewer things is the simulated poll workflow.
Oh, yes. This is a great system.
So how does this work?
Well, it involves using two lists, a holding tank and an active list.
Okay, 2 lists.
The holding tank is where you keep all of the projects that you're committed to, and the active list is limited to a maximum of 3 projects.
So you're only actively working on 3 projects at a time.
Exactly. And the key is that you only pull a new project from the holding tank onto the active list when you've completed one of the current projects.
I see. So it's a way of limiting your workload.
Exactly. And it prevents you from feeling overwhelmed by having too many things on your plate at once.
So it creates a sense of control and order.
Exactly. And another key aspect of the system is having a clear intake procedure for new projects.
Okay, intake procedure. So what does that involve?
So when someone requests a new project, you acknowledge their request, but you also ask for all the necessary details.
Okay, make sure you have all the information.
Exactly. And you also let them know how many projects are currently in your active list and your holding tank.
Transparency is key.
Exactly. And you give them an estimated completion time for their request.
So manage expectations from the beginning.
Exactly. And this creates a bit of what Newport calls healthy friction.
Healthy friction.
Slows down the influx of new work and encourages people to be more mindful of your capacity.
It makes people think twice before just dumping something on your plate.
Exactly. And finally, the simulated poll workflow also involves regular list cleaning.
Okay, list cleaning.
So every week, you review your lists, update deadlines, and remove any projects that are no longer relevant.
So keep those lists fresh and up to date.
Exactly. This ensures that your system stays dynamic and reflects your current priorities.
I love that. All right, so that was a really in-depth look at the first principle of slow productivity. Do fewer things.
Yes. It's about being more selective with our commitments and using practical strategies to safeguard our focus.
It's about saying no to the unimportant so we can say yes to what truly matters.
Exactly.
Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the second principle. Work at a natural pace.
All right, let's dive into that.
Now, in our always-on hustle culture, this idea might seem a little radical.
It does, doesn't it?
We're so used to this idea of constantly pushing ourselves, going at 110% all the time.
Yeah, we're almost programmed to believe that if we're not constantly busy and stressed, we're not being productive.
But Newport challenges this notion and says that historically, human work has had a much more varied rhythm.
Right. Think about foraging societies or agricultural communities.
Yeah,
There were periods of intense activity, of course, like during harvest time.
right, yeah.
But those were naturally followed by periods of rest and recovery.
It's like the ebb and flow of nature.
Exactly. And Newport argues that this relentless intensity that we often experience in the modern workplace is both artificial and unsustainable.
It goes against our natural rhythms.
Precisely. And it's not just unpleasant, it's actually counterproductive in the long run.
Release to burnout, yeah.
Burnout, stifled creativity, and ultimately lower quality work.
So working at a natural pace isn't about being lazy or unproductive. It's about working in a way that's more sustainable and aligned with our natural energy levels.
Exactly. It's about finding a rhythm that allows us to do our best work without burning ourselves out.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? Like, how do we work at a natural pace in a world that's constantly demanding more from us?
Well, Newport offers several practical tactics. One that he suggests is embracing what he calls seasonal work.
Okay, seasonal work, I'm intrigued.
Now, this doesn't necessarily mean taking a full season off every year, although that would be lovely.
Well, would be nice.
But it's about intentionally reducing your workload during specific periods throughout the year.
Okay, like creating your own personal off-season.
Exactly. You could aim for one season each year where you deliberately take on fewer new projects and focus on lower stakes tasks.
So kind of like a strategic, quiet quitting without actually quitting your job.
Exactly. And it's a great way to recharge without completely disengaging from your work.
It's about finding that balance between rest and productivity.
Precisely. And another tactic that Newport suggests is what he calls no meeting Mondays.
Oh, I love this one. No meetings on Mondays. Sign me up.
That's a brilliant strategy. You simply block off your entire Monday for focused work, no meetings allowed.
Just pure, uninterrupted work time.
Exactly. It gives you a solid chunk of time at the beginning of the week to really dive into those deep work tasks.
And it sets the tone for a more productive week overall.
Absolutely. Now, this one might seem a little counterintuitive, but Newport also suggests scheduling a monthly matinee.
A matinee, like going to the movies in the middle of the day.
Exactly. And I know it sounds crazy, but hear me out.
Okay, I'm listening.
The point of this is to intentionally take a break, a mental reset in the middle of the workday.
So step away from the desk, go do something completely different.
Exactly. And something enjoyable and novel, like seeing a movie, can really shift your perspective and help you return to your work with fresh eyes.
It's like hitting the refresh button on your brain.
Exactly. Now, another tactic that Newport talks about is creating hard fun cycles.
Hard fun cycles. Okay, what are those?
So this is about intentionally scheduling leisure time immediately after periods of intense work.
Oh, okay, I see. So it's like work hard, play hard.
Exactly. And it acts as both a reward and a motivator.
So you're more likely to push through those challenging projects if you know you have something fun to look forward to afterward.
Precisely. And the more demanding the work, the more significant the reward should be.
Makes sense. It's all about creating that balance.
Exactly. And speaking of balance, Newport emphasizes the importance of our work environment in fostering a natural pace.
Oh, right. Our surroundings really do matter.
Absolutely. And he brings in this fascinating idea from Gaston Bachelard, who said that inhabited space transcends geometrical space.
So it's not just about the physical space itself. It's about the meaning and the memories we associate with it.
Exactly. So if you're constantly working in a cluttered and chaotic environment, it's going to be harder to find that sense of calm and focus.
Right. Your environment can either support or sabotage your efforts.
Exactly.
Sure.
So take some time to personalize your workspace, make it a place where you feel comfortable and inspired.
And maybe even try working in different locations every now and then.
Oh, that's a great idea. Sometimes a change of scenery can really boost our creativity and productivity.
Shake things up a bit.
Exactly. And finally, under this principle of working at a natural pace, Newport highlights the power of developing personalized work rituals.
Oh, yes, rituals.
So these are specific actions that you do to signal to your brain that it's time to transition into a different mode.
Okay, like a mental cue.
Exactly. So it could be something as simple as making a cup of tea before you start working, listening to a particular playlist, or even lighting a candle.
So it's about creating a sense of intentionality and focus.
Exactly. And the key is to make these rituals sufficiently striking so they effectively trigger that mental shift.
So they need to be meaningful to you.
Precisely. They should have a real impact on your state of mind.
Okay, so embracing a natural pace isn't about being lazy or unproductive. It's about finding a rhythm that works for you, right?
Exactly. It's about creating a sustainable and enjoyable way of working.
And it ultimately leads to better results in the long run.
Absolutely.
All right, now let's move on to the third and final principle of slow productivity: obsess over quality.
Ah, this is where it all comes together.
Right, it's like the culmination of the first two principles.
Exactly. When you're focused on doing fewer things and working at a natural pace, you create the space and the energy to truly obsess over the quality of your work.
Because you're not spreading yourself too thin.
Precisely. And as Newport explains, this pursuit of quality isn't just about producing excellent work. It's about living a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
It's about finding satisfaction in the work itself.
Exactly. So let's talk about some practical tactics for cultivating this obsession with quality.
Okay, let's get actionable.
One that Newport highlights, and he actually quotes Steve Jobs on this, is deciding what not to do.
Oh, right, because we only have so much time and energy.
Exactly. And we have to be ruthless about prioritizing.
So say no to the good so you can say yes to the great.
Precisely. Now, another tactic that Newport suggests is cultivating taste.
Okay, cultivating taste, what does that mean?
So this is about actively seeking out and appreciating high-quality work, even in fields that are outside of your own area of expertise.
Oh, I see. So like if you're a writer, maybe you start going to art museums or attending classical music concerts.
Exactly. And the reason this is so valuable is that it helps you develop a more refined sense of what excellence looks and feels like.
It broadens your perspective.
Exactly. And it can also reduce the pressure of comparison within your own field.
Oh, I see, because you're not just comparing yourself to the same people all the time.
Exactly. It's about expanding your horizons and recognizing that quality takes many forms.
Love that. And Newport also suggests forming groups with like-minded professionals to collectively raise standards.
Yes, it's about surrounding yourself with people who are also passionate about quality and who can challenge you to do your best work.
It's like creating a community of excellence.
Precisely. Now, another practical step that you can take is to invest in better tools.
Okay, better tools.
Newport uses the example of buying himself a really nice, expensive lab notebook.
Oh, yeah, he talks about that in his book.
And he says that this seemingly small act actually had a profound psychological impact on him.
Really? How so?
It was a way of signaling to himself that he valued the work he was doing and that he was committed to doing it well.
It's like a little investment in yourself and your craft.
Exactly. Now, of course, we have to be careful not to let this pursuit of perfection become paralyzing.
Right, because perfectionism can be a double-edged sword.
Exactly. So while striving for excellence is important, we also have to be willing to embrace the idea of good enough.
Progress over perfection.
Precisely. It's about getting your work out there, iterating and improving it over time, rather than endlessly tweaking it in search of some unattainable ideal.
Done is better than perfect.
Absolutely. Now, here's an interesting tactic that Newport suggests. Temporarily dedicating significant free time to a specific project.
Okay, so like going all in on something for a short period.
Exactly. And he frames this as a bet on yourself.
Oh, I like that.
So you're consciously sacrificing leisure time for a limited period to really focus on a project that you believe in.
And the idea is that this sacrifice actually motivates you to produce higher quality work.
Precisely. Because you're giving up something valuable, you're more likely to make the most of the time you're investing in the project.
It raises the stakes.
Exactly. Now, this isn't a sustainable long-term strategy, of course.
Right, you can't just work all the time and never relax.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it can be a really effective way to push yourself to produce exceptional work on a specific project.
Okay, so strategic bursts of focused effort.
Precisely. Now, for those who are considering making major career changes in pursuit of more meaningful work, Newport suggests waiting for concrete evidence before taking the leap.
Okay, concrete evidence, what does that mean?
So it's not just about following your passion blindly, it's about making sure that your passion can actually translate into a viable career.
So, like, make sure people are actually willing to pay for your work.
Exactly. Can you consistently deliver high-quality results that people value?
So test the waters before you jump in head first.
Exactly. And another factor that can drive excellence is attracting investment from others.
Oh, I see. So if you have investors who are putting money into your project, you're more likely to work hard to make sure it succeeds.
Precisely. The stakes are higher when other people are counting on you.
It creates accountability.
Exactly. And finally, Newport shares a really interesting method that John McPhee uses to minimize distractions and enhance his focus.
Oh, yeah. McPhee, the famous writer.
Yes, he's known for his incredibly detailed and meticulously researched books.
And he has a very specific way of working, right?
He does. He concentrates on one component of a story at a time.
Okay, so like one chapter or one section.
Yeah, and he makes sure that all of the relevant notes and research materials for that component are immediately accessible.
So he's basically eliminating any excuse to get up and get distracted.
Exactly. He's painting himself into a corner, as he calls it.
And this forces him to focus deeply on that one element until it's done.
Precisely. And it ensures that every part of the story receives his full attention and is crafted with the utmost care.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's a really powerful technique for anyone who wants to produce high-quality work.
All right, so obsessing over quality isn't just about setting high standards, it's about creating the conditions that allow us to consistently achieve those standards.
Exactly. It's about building systems and habits that support excellence.
And it's about remembering that the pursuit of quality is a journey, not a destination.
Absolutely.
Well, that concludes our deep dive into Cal Newport's principles of slow productivity.
I hope it's been helpful.
We've covered a lot of ground, and I hope you, the listener, have walked away with some valuable insights and actionable strategies for transforming your relationship with work.
Remember, this is not about quick fixes or overnight transformations.
No, definitely not.
It's about adopting a long-term, sustainable approach to achievement.
It's about making small, consistent changes over time that compound into big results.